Hi guys, welcome to another video. Today we're going to be building this Performer Giraffe. But first things first, yes, I've had a very aggressive haircut. 2, we're in the warehouse and the shutter's open, so you might get a little bit of background noise. Apologies for that, but it's a nice warm day, so I've got the shutter open. But other than that, let's get this Performer Giraffe out of the box and see how it's supposed to go together. Right, so here are all the bits out of the box. I saved you stripping all the packaging out of it. So first things first, we've got a wheel with the sprockets and the chain tensioners already attached. You have the center section with the cranks and the sprockets, saddle and seat post. It's got a 400mm aluminium seat post on. Then you've got the forks for the wheel, 2 extensions, 2 sets of chain. So obviously this giraffe, you can have it at 5 foot or 7 foot. So you get chains to match. So there's a pair of chains there and a pair of chains for the 7 foot version. And then quick releases to go with it, a set of pedals, even get a pedal spanner in this one, and the business card for where the instructions are. So if you scan that little QR code, you go to Unicycle.com/build, and that's where all the instructions are for putting these things together. Right, so the first things we're going to be doing is we're going to be building the frame. I've put the wheel, the pedals and the chains and all the other bits off to one side for now, because we're just going to be assembling the frame. And what the majority of that we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting in these quick releases. You see them? And we're putting them into the frame. Now, we're going to be building the 5 foot version, so I can take one of these center sections and one of these quick releases and put them to one side for now. And the same can be said for one of the sets of chains in there. Because we're building the 5 foot version, we don't need that. So first thing, if you take the forks, and we're going to be putting the quick release into these little welded bosses on the frames. So wind the little nut off. Take your frame and you can see that it's like a little top hat. You see that? And that slides and sits inside the frame. See that? And the same can be said for the nut and the little washer. It's a little top hat that goes inside the frame and the nut screws onto there. So wind them in. Don't go crazy tight with this because we still have to actually put something in here. Next, if we take the center section, now on all of the sections there is a welded bit on the back of the frame. You see that? And that slides into there, locking these in place so they can't turn round. And then obviously when you've got that in there, we can wind this tight and close the clamp. There we go, nice and tight. So we'll take the next bit. Again, through the little weld boss, make sure the little top hat bits are inside the frame. Wind that in there, like that. And if we get, slide that in, and then the last one we'll put in there. Just good practice as well to try and keep all of your quick release levers on one side of the unicycle. Some performers use them as obviously for climbing up the unicycle as well. Just good practice. You don't need to have them one way around or the other, but it just looks a bit neater if they're all on one side. So wind that in. Close that clamp. There we go. Then the top one that we put in is for the saddle and seat post. So saddle, slide that in there. Wind the wheel, close the clamp, and there you go. That is the 5 foot Performer Giraffe frame pretty much built. You can see the saddle at the top's in, section, center section, and then the forks at the bottom. As we previously said, the wheel comes pretty much complete, and it's got the chain tensioners already on the axle. That's the word I was looking for. What you need to do the chain tensioners is a 4mm Allen key. So I went and got a 4mm Allen key. Now to fit it in the frame, you need to wind these 15mm nuts off as much as you can, so you've got all the space for the forks to slip in. So if we get the forks here, lift this up, and it should just slide in there, just like that. Yeah, I'll turn that around a little bit. This is a bit big, so you can see it. So that slipped in there. Now these chain tensioners want to slide into the little groove where the axle goes. Same on both sides, and if you just tighten down the 15mm axle nuts until there's a bit of tension, so you just tighten them up by hand, just so the wheel can still move like this, because obviously you're going to need to tension the chain when we put the chains on, but just so it holds it in place like that. Yeah, right, let's get some chains. Right, so we've got the wheel in with the chain tensioners in place. It's not really any tension on those, so the wheel can still move freely. But first we need to now loop the chains over. And obviously I've took the packaging off the 5-foot chains, and you can tell the difference between the 7-foot chains, as there's just more chain for the 7-foot one. So put them in there. I'm going to need, in a minute, the pedal spanner that you get in the box. So if you get this chain, obviously these come all pre-lubricated. So if you take the chain out and loop it over there, so it goes, it's not on the front sprocket, but it's looped over, and then get it all nicely onto the sprocket like that. Then come to the front, try and get it on a teeth, on one of the teeth, and spin that round, just like that. There you go. There's a chain on. It's quite handy to have a bit of a rag in this, because obviously the chains are quite lubricated, so you'll get it everywhere. So then if we flip this over and do the same thing again, see this side of the chain, can you see that? Yeah, that's the chain that goes onto the sprockets. The fly edge is at the top. So same again, loop it over. There you go. Both the chains are on, and now we need to put some tension in the chain. So lift this giraffe up, spin it round, put it down there like that, so this wheel can still move. But what we want to do is the 2 little bolts on the back of these chain tensioners, we want to start winding them out, and these push on the frame to pull the wheel back. Obviously you want to do these equally on both sides, so the wheel's in the middle, straight down the unicycle. Fine, if you get your little Allen key, you can start to wind these in pretty quick to get a bit of tension in the chain. And see that one there is starting to get a bit of tension already. Let's do the other side. And what's good practice with this as well, as you're doing it, spin the wheel around and check the tension in different places. So that one's a little bit too tight, so we could just wind that back off a little bit. There you go. Just turn this round a little bit, and you can sort of see that's a pretty good tension on them chains. And obviously at the back here, you can see I've wound them nuts in, and we want to get these kind of as equal as we can. And then when we're happy with both of them, you can wind the little lock nuts down, and then take your pedal spanner and nip up your axle. Flip this over, do the same thing on this side, like this. And then the axle bolt is the sort of final bit. When that's tight, it's then all tighten in. And what might be a good advantage as well, if you get a little tiny spanner and just nip these little lock nuts up. I've only done them by hand, but it'll be a good advantage just to nip them up. And that's about it. And then finally, it's the unicycle pedals. And like any unicycle, you need to look out for the rights and the lefts on the pedals. if we've built this unicycle correctly with the little welded tabs in the back of the frame, this crank would be the left crank. But you can double check that stamped in the back of the cranks, just near where the pedal hole is, there's a little L and an R stamped in the cranks. You know what I've always wanted to try? Let's see if this works. 1, 2, 3. Sweet, that was good. I'm getting good at this YouTuber trick, isn't it? Right, and there we go. We have a built 5-foot Performer Giraffe. Granted, you've still got all the bits left over, the extra extension, chains, and the pedal spanner for when you want to convert it into a 7-foot one. But the idea is still the same. If you've got any questions about this unicycle or any of the other products on our website, leave a comment below or send us an email. And that classic YouTuber thing is it like, share, subscribe. It changes every time I ask you. But if you could press that subscribe button, that would be doing us a big help. And other than that, thanks for watching. Man, my head's cold.